What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Eddie Hearn. Get this. According to Eddie Hearn states that Anthony Joshua responds to Tyson Fury's call out in September. And this is what Frank Warren said. He said, I spoke to AJ. AJ laughed and said, isn't he fighting Jai Apatea or Dempsey McKean or John Jones? I said, no, they're telling us they want to fight you, but we're fighting in August and in September. That's our plan. I'll go through the process and see how real it is. I believe George Warren. I think they're in a really difficult spot, Tyson Fury. He wants big money fights, and AJ is the money fight for him, but no back and forth. Just we'll talk right now. Our plans remain the same. August and Deontay Wilder in December. So we'll see what happens in Saudi Arabia this week. That's our plan. That's what we're moving forward with this week. If we can't make the fight happen, we'll 100% look back at the Tyson Fury fight. And let me counterpunch. AJ laughed, and you know why AJ should laugh. What else would you expect AJ to do? Let's be real. For 2020, and we can go back before 2020. We can go back to 2018. 2018, Tyson Fury came back on the scene and proposed a fight itinerary or a fight plan to fight AJ, being the unified champion at the time, okay? And Tyson wanted 4 tune-ups. Eddie Hearn wouldn't give it to him because he didn't want to give him that amount of money to fight nobodies. That's what happened. So he went on to fight other guys, and he went on to fight and sign with Frank Warren. So he left Eddie Hearn. He went to Eddie first. Then he went to Frank Warren. And then Frank Warren gave him 2 tune-ups, fought Wilder, gave him 2 more tune-ups when he signed with Bob Arum at Top Rank. So now he had Top Rank in America, then he had Frank Warren in the UK. And then he fought those 2 fights in 2019, had that scare in the last fight with Otto Vailene, then fought Wilder again, then beat Wilder, then became the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, then agreed to fight Anthony Joshua in like June or July of that year. They verbally agreed to terms in 2020. The problem was the contract. You remember that? The contract was the issue with the rematch clause being valid or not. So they didn't want to get a fight going for AJ and Tyson Fury as long as this contract could possibly be valid. Well, Bob Arum claimed that it's not valid. He's a lawyer. He knows the stipulations. So it's not valid. It's expired. You remember that, guys? Okay. So at the end of 2020, all the Glovegate stuff was going on. It was fuming like napalm in Vietnam. Bars. And, you know, that was going on. Right? And Tyson was supposed to fight Aget Kabayel to get him back in the swing of things. Meanwhile, in 2020, Anthony Joshua beat Kubrat Pulev in front of a selected crowd of people while Floyd Money Mayweather flew over. Okay? Now, 2021 rolls around. All right, and then that started this whole campaign since the contract was expired, people, from Deontay Wilder's rematch clause. Eddie Hearn started flying to Middle East back and forth to make sure to get terms ready and to get venues ready. And it took a very, very, very long time. Okay. Meanwhile, though, an arbitration was going on, and I think that started in December of 2020. So I missed that. So the arbitration was going on. Okay. So January, February, March, April, May, June. Okay. This stuff was still going on at the same time. Eddie was looking for venues. Bob Arum and Frank Warren were just sitting back, waiting, looking, watching Eddie and doubting what he was doing, while at the same time, the arbitration was going on. Okay. Then somewhere down the line, was it May or June? Okay. Eddie Hearn, Tyson Fury, because Tyson was weary about the money. That was his whole thing, like, hey, I'm not doing this, and I'm not doing that, and um, if it's valid, if the step aside money is valid, if the rematch clause is valid, then we'll offer Wilder so much money, shit like that. So that was a rumor. It was false, but Tyson didn't know if the money was there in Saudi Arabia. But then he supposedly calls Prince Khalid, and then the money was there or whatever, and he makes this announcement that he's fighting Anthony Joshua in Saudi Arabia. The very next day, the arbitration comes in. The very next day. And then it ruled in Wilder's favor that he had to fight Tyson Fury, so they say. Then Bob Arum says, well, if Eddie Hearn wouldn't have drug his ass, it might have affected and swayed the arbitration to go the other way. Which I couldn't understand. It's either going to go the way it's going to go, it's going to go the way it's going to go. Because it's either is the contract valid and you have to fight this man or not. Not if Eddie Hearn drug his ass or not. Didn't matter. So that was stupid. And then, Anthony got all pissed off. Then he had to fight Usyk. But what happened with Usyk? Fury's supposed to fight Wilder on July 24th, 2021. He claimed he had COVID. Okay. Then COVID happened. Parker's supposed to have had COVID first, and we seen this juggler eating popcorn and drinking a beer at a fight. So I'm like, okay, what's that shit about? Meanwhile, Tyson Fury tested positive for COVID, supposedly, and then he was out hugging fans and renting sports cars and shit in Vegas. So you're like, okay, what's that about? Then they fly to the UK, have their child, then their child gets a scare because something happened with the child of Tyson Fury. Okay, this is all documented. So then they pushed that date from July 24th to somewhere in September, and then they moved it from September to October 9th, which it happened. Or was it the 10th? I think it was October 9th. And Anthony Joshua then started ragging on Tyson Fury because, like, hey, what happened to you? I thought this shit was supposed to be clean, clear, and taken care of on your end. So obviously, all the lawyers that you paid millions of dollars for, as he bragged about all year, didn't matter. Okay? It came down to, I think, Daniel Weinstein or whatever his name was that made the decision. Okay? That's 2021. He beats Deontay Wilder, and that's it. Then he goes the next year, beats Dillian White, then retires. Okay? Joshua, of course, gets beat by Alexander Usyk. So that was out. So that money was kind of up in smoke. So 2022, Usyk beats Joshua again at the end of the year. Tyson Fury's supposed to be retired. He comes out of retirement, and what does he do? He calls out Usyk after Usyk had the fight with Anthony Joshua. Usyk tells him, I'll see you at the beginning of the year. Cool. Then Tyson Fury then calls out Anthony Joshua once more in 2022. Okay? And says, hey, I'll offer you 40-60, take it or leave it. Monday's the deadline. Monday! Right? And all that. He's all coked up. We seen that, right? And it was just hilarious. And then he, the teams were working together to make this fight done. And then he comes in and says, hey, you got a deadline Monday. And then, then Friday, then Monday, and all this other stuff. So then that, then I guess at that point, Josh was kind of like, you know what, this dude's really flaky. I guess he said the same thing about what Lennox Lewis said about me. Okay, go figure. Then he says, you're an idiot. You blew it. I don't want to see you. Nobody knows you. Nobody talks about you. You're done. You're this. You're that. Then Joshua beats Jermaine Franklin. Tyson Fury shits all over Alexander Usyk and prices himself out. Everybody or half the society of his fans shit on him. Okay. And then he can't find a fight. Now he wants to call out Anthony Joshua after calling out all those names that he mentioned. Joshua did, John Jones and Dempsey McKean and the other guy. And this is where we're at now. So saying all that to come back to this point, people, Are you surprised that Anthony Joshua laughed? Because it's laughable to have someone that did what they did, and we went through the journey through Tyson Fury and came back around, and now he wants to fight Anthony Joshua when Joshua has a full itinerary of shit to do, fights to happen, fights to be made. I say this. I say fuck fighting Tyson Fury. That's what I say. Tyson Fury, do what you always do. Find you somebody to fight, because I know that's pretty much what he's going to do anyway. He's going to find someone that nobody wants to see him fight, just to fight, to keep his name relevant and to keep the rust off his shoulders and arms. That's what he should do. Because the last thing you want to do is follow someone into obscurity, into uncertainty. You don't let another fighter dictate your career when you already have an itinerary. That's what pissed me off about that date all of a sudden being trashed or in July. I'm like, okay, we're going to see more of AJ because we only seen this cat one time per year since 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. You've seen this man fight one time a year. That's not enough for somebody that's trying to get their mojo back. Now, I know COVID and the war and all that stuff affected a lot of things, but hey, guess what? It's time for you to get back in the saddle, get back on that horse and ride it, right? So you don't need someone uncertain that can't find a fight the damn self like Tyson Fury to mess up your itinerary and mess up the things that you got going with your promoter. And don't let your ambitious promoter like Eddie Hearn come with some bullshit to make and to mess with you. Because see, that can mess with any fighter and his concentration and his focus, your levels, because that's what happened in 2019. Worried about Wilder, worried about Fury, worried about these other fights when you should have been worried about the fight at hand. And maybe, just maybe, that wouldn't have happened with Andy Ruiz. Sorry, Luis Ortiz. Sorry, Dillian White. Sorry, Jarrell Miller, because it was so many different opponents that this guy was, he didn't even really know who to study. How could he? Because he didn't know who he was going to fight. But anyway, fair play to AJ for laughing at that shit, because he knows it's ridiculous. He knows it's sporadic, even desperate. But at any time, you can't take this as serious as people think, because Eddie Hearn, I know this is long, but it's necessary. Eddie Hearn might believe George Warren, but it ain't George Warren you have to worry about. It's Tyson Fury. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Anthony Joshua laughing, responding by laughing at the idea of the Tyson Fury offer. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!